It's Monday, January 26th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. A region-wide winter wallop brings cancellations and closures. The physician wait list shrinks in Nova Scotia. New Brunswick gets more doctors.
Snow eases to flurries for most overnight. Colder conditions continue into the end of this week.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. This was a snow day in most of the Maritimes. We will get to CTV meteorologist Kayla Mitchell in a moment. But first, more snow is expected tonight, and the cold continues, as does the cleanup. We've got a lot of folks out there tonight. We begin our coverage with CTV's Hafsa Arif.
Snow is still coming down, and across the Halifax area, cleanup efforts continue. While crews focus on main routes, some neighborhoods are seeing help come from closer to home.
So we're trying to help out people who can't shovel their own driveway and just make some money.
With school closures and snow still falling, they're stepping in where they can. For homeowners, the extra hands are welcome.
I was just getting ready to come out and take care of it myself when these two guys came to the door, offered to shovel.
Driving remains tricky as snow continues to cover roads. Some businesses are choosing to remain closed. Others are pushing through.
Honestly, we just want to serve whoever is out there, like plowing the roads and stuff like that, and we still have power.
At City Hall, officials have a reminder the storm isn't done yet.
Crews do have to focus on priority areas before they get to all surfaces. The crews are doing the best they can in the meantime to move the fluffy snow that has hit the ground and are continuing. They'll be out all night tonight.
With snow still falling, the overnight parking ban continues.
This is really safety being the paramount reason that we're asking people to get their cars off of the streets during these times so that we can move the snow and clear it out safely and efficiently.
As cleanup continues, the city says enforcement is part of that effort. Overnight, they issued 507 tickets and 7 vehicles were towed, and that's for the parking ban, which was issued yesterday afternoon and has been extended overnight, which means, Todd, the vehicle you see behind me, the owner will have to park it somewhere else.
Yeah, yes,
Todd?
Yes, they will. You were out all day. Was it tough getting around the downtown area in particular?
It was. You can tell with the roads you see, just around me here. It's covered in snow, which is what you saw around downtown Halifax and Dartmouth. It was difficult to make turns. Braking was difficult as well. Luckily, there were fewer cars on the road and traffic was a lot slower. People were taking the necessary precautions that they needed to. Todd?
All right. Hafsa Arif leading us off in Halifax tonight. The snow started falling consistently in Fredericton this afternoon. This was the city by mid-afternoon. The snowfall much heavier than it was during the morning commute. People have been warned to take it slow trying to get home this evening in and around the city. Schools in the capital and from Florenceville, Bristol to the village of Gagetown were shut down today. And classes were canceled and some businesses closed in the greater Moncton area today, too. The snow started mid-morning and was fairly steady by the lunch hour. Downtown sidewalks were cleared, but roads all around the city were slippery. The snowfall was consistent for most of the day. And there is a live look at Uptown St. John, where it's currently -8 degrees. Let's get our first look at the weather. Of course, we'll bring in CTV meteorologist Kayla Mitchell. You're tracking the next round.
Yeah, that's right. This has been one of the trickier parts of this weather system. As the snow eased off or diminished for parts of the Maritimes, it ramped up for others. For example, some of the heaviest of the snow through the first part of this weather system developed late Sunday night and was ongoing into very early Monday morning across parts of the southwest and Nova Scotia, where some totals have come in in the range of around 20 to 35 centimeters of snow. Now, as the snow got lighter there, it picked up for other areas, like, for example, as we saw in around Fredericton, locations around Moncton. A lot of these reports, basically all of them here, are very preliminary. A lot of them came in from this morning. We won't really get anything resembling final totals for this weather system, likely until some reports come in from Tuesday morning. Like, for example, the Halifax area, 10 to 14 centimeters of snow. That came in from the morning hours. If I had to guesstimate, I would say the Halifax area is probably close to the 20 centimeter mark at this point. All right, let's talk a little bit more about how much more is left to come, because we still have the backside of this weather system to move through. Now, it is expected to be lighter snow for a number of areas, including around the north of New Brunswick and parts of the southwest of Nova Scotia, where might only be an additional 1 to 5 centimeters of snow. Other areas, though, could still pick up another 5 to 10, including potentially around the southeast New Brunswick, parts of Prince Edward Island, and the north and east of Nova Scotia, where there's a possibility there could be some local totals as high as around 10 to 15 centimeters, including in parts of Cape Breton, as well as parts of Pictou, Antigonish, and Guysborough counties. And because there's additional snow still on its way in, we still have these snowfall warnings in effect for all 3 maritime provinces, and a special weather statement across central areas of New Brunswick and into Prince County, Prince Edward Island. More on the timing of this snow when it'll be clearing out when I'm back a little bit later on.
Okay, we'll see you for the full forecast. And as you mentioned, Kaylin, the spot that could see some of the most snow through the evening tonight is Cape Breton, which of course was the last area to see the system move in. CTV's Ryan McDonald is in Sydney. He joins us live. What's the situation like on the ground there?
Hello, Todd. I'm here on Charlotte Street in downtown Sydney, and like you said, the Cape Breton Island was one of the last places where the snow started. And I heard you say off the top of the show that it was a snow day through much of the region, and I was thinking to myself, it wasn't really, in good conscience, a snow day here, because I think nowadays the term snow days implies that most everything is canceled, and today a lot of things weren't. First waking up today, the flurries were just starting to fall, and school, in fact, was on. Students in the Cape Breton Victoria Regional Centre for Education, in fact, put in a full day, and a lot of people went to work as usual. Now, the snow has been falling and accumulating steadily, really nonstop throughout the day. So as a result, some businesses and places of work made the decision to close for the afternoon and send some people home. Maybe a good call, because the roads have been getting on the greasy side, although there are still some vehicles out and about. The roads seem passable with caution. And it seems as though, as you said earlier, the precipitation, the snow, the wintry mix will continue to fall overnight well into tomorrow. So maybe tomorrow we will have that dig out people were expecting, and maybe students will get that day off tomorrow that they were perhaps hoping for today, Todd.
Or maybe they dodged both. Thank you very much, Ryan, in Sydney for us right now. Well, the conditions made travel difficult in the air, we'll get to that shortly, and on the ground. Blowing snow made some highways and streets impassable. CTV's Avery McRae has more on that from St. John.
This stretch of Route 1 between St. John and St. Stephen is among the most traveled highways in the province. But today's weather prompted RCMP to issue a warning to drivers to avoid the over 100 kilometers of road. For much of the Maritimes, travel was an issue thanks to the snow. In St. John, the city's arsenal of 35 street plows and 11 sidewalk blowers have been pushing powder since the first flakes fell.
The higher priority streets we pay more attention to, especially during a storm. But St. John is a very hilly city. We have to pay some particular attention on to make sure those are cleared as much as possible for the traveling public, especially around the rush hours.
This storm poses a unique challenge for plow drivers. One being the storm's lengthy nature, and the other is the cold weather.
Salt works to about minus 10 degrees Celsius, and we get temperatures below that. So we've had to switch to more of a salt sand mix. And it's going to take a bit longer for that salt to activate to get right down to bare pavement.
That means even on clear streets, drivers should take extra caution with the conditions.
The number one tip is actually kind of the opposite of what you're driving. It's stay home. If you don't have to go out, don't go out.
CAA spokesperson Julia Kent advises drivers to have a half tank of gas, a charged phone, and an emergency kit before hitting the road in case of weather-related delays.
Even people like to put kitty litter or sand in their car and a small shovel and a car brush just to get out of sticky situations where your tires just aren't cutting it.
Kent says good winter tires are key on days like this. Now, Todd, the road you see behind me will continue to be tackled by the municipality, while the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure is focused on those major highways that we saw. Those snow clearing efforts will continue until the storm subsides, but like Julia Kent says, DTI says the best practice on a day like today is to just stay home, Todd.
Avery, you mentioned Route 1 off the top of your report. Any change in that situation?
No change that we've seen from the RCMP posted publicly, Todd, and the fact that the conditions really haven't changed throughout much of the day here in St. John, and combine that with the fact that it's now night, which brings a whole nother couple elements when it comes to driving, probably won't see that change until the morning, Todd.
All right, Avery McRae on the east side of St. John for us this evening. Thank you, Avery. The storm has, of course, impacted flights in and out of the Maritimes. The flight boards at Halifax Stanfield are showing dozens of delays and cancellations. CTV's Jonathan McGinnis is there tonight.
The start of the Ackermans' month-long vacation is not going as planned.
The weather has socked in, and there's nothing moving out of the airport this afternoon. So we've rebooked our flight to Toronto for tomorrow, and now we're attempting to rebook the Taiwan leg of the trip.
The Ackermans are not alone. While the airfield is open at Halifax Stanfield, flights are few and far between.
We've seen a few early morning arrivals and departures. However, there are a significant amount of delays and cancellations across the board today.
It's not just the weather in Halifax that's causing problems. A winter storm has dropped a record 46 centimeters at the nation's busiest airport. That's where Erica Sutherland's work trip to northern Manitoba has stalled.
I managed to leave Halifax yesterday morning around 5:05 in the morning. About an hour into our flight, I got an announcement that I would now not be leaving Toronto until tomorrow. I think it was around 8:15 in the morning to continue my journey to Winnipeg.
Sutherland is now booked to return to Halifax instead.
Best case scenario, I am on the flight tomorrow morning and my luggage is on there with me.
As for the Ackermans, they managed to find one of the few remaining hotel rooms near the airport. Now the challenge is to reach their travel agent so they can take another shot at starting their vacation. And Todd, there's not a lot of people here at the airport right now, and that's because most airlines canceled their flights well in advance of this storm.
John, that board behind you is pretty lit up. Lots of colors there. Any indication how long it'll be before things are expected to return to normal there?
Well, Jessica Kinney tells me they're doing their best to keep the runways open, but it's really up to the airline to decide whether they can safely land and take off.
Okay, so as always, check before you head out to Stanfield International. Thank you, John, at the airport just outside Halifax. If there's a bright spot tonight, it's that few Maritimers are without power. The storm and the weekend's bitterly cold temperatures put increased demand on power grids, but rolling outages or blackouts were not needed. Details now from CTV's Callum Smith.
It was a weekend of all-time demand for some power utilities across our region, especially when more people rely on things like heat pumps and EVs.
We're seeing with electrification that certainly there is increased use by our customers.
That's a comment echoed by Summerside's mayor, a city that owns its utility.
The pace of electrification has, and it's not just on heat pumps, it's on everything around our homes and in our workplaces, has really been pretty incredible over the past number of years. A lot of positives to that, also a lot of concerns associated with it.
But he says that's only one factor, along with population growth, underinvestment, and lack of capacity, to name a few. Still, the weekend took a toll. Thankfully, there was a noticeable drop in usage as requested, 3 to 4%, meaning rolling outages of about 4 hours were not required.
Demand was the highest it's ever been. It was a touch and go weekend.
A similar story for the island's utility.
We did reach a new system peak of 404 megawatts. Our system was able to handle the capacity and the needs of our customers this weekend.
But she said there were a couple thousand homes or businesses that lost power on Sunday. Part of a fragile weekend across our region, utilities shared power. Nothing new, but more on the line when everyone is facing the cold.
Over this last weekend, it was much more collaborative. There were some instances where there was more wind in Nova Scotia, which meant that we had more generation on the grid, where we were actually giving energy to Newfoundland. Most days they're giving energy to us.
We did see elevated demand. It was not at all-time peak levels. We all peak at the same time, and it's becoming extremely problematic regarding sharing resources.
He says a couple degrees colder with less wind could have made things a lot worse. Callum Smith, CTV News, Halifax.
For the latest updates on the forecast and cancellations, don't forget to visit our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. All right, to other news of the day, and we go to neighboring Maine, where a plane crash in Bangor killed 7 people and left 1 crew member with serious injuries. A private business jet went down in the snowstorm at the international airport. The Bombardier Challenger 600 carrying 8 people crashed on takeoff. That was just before 9 o'clock our time last night. Snowfall had just started in Bangor at the time of the incident, and other planes had been taking off safely. The crash is under investigation right now. More than 65,000 Nova Scotians continue to wait for a family doctor, a large number, but one the province is feeling pretty good about, given what it was. CTV's Vanessa Wright reports.
Nova Scotia's Department of Health has announced changes to the province's family practice registry, saying when it was created in 2016, the registry was a static list that offered no patient support or engagement. They say that's changed as of today.
Now, when someone contacts the registry for support to find a provider, the team discusses their personal circumstances and health concerns with them. This help ensures they can be added to the registry, have access to care options, and understand how Nova Scotia Health can support them.
In some cases, the province says an individual's health needs can be quickly resolved in consultation with a healthcare provider, and registration is not needed. When a primary care provider is available, registrants will be assigned to that provider or practice, and patients will be considered pending.
That person has to then engage with that primary care provider, and an appointment needs to be made. So I don't think it's government's role to make appointments for people. That is an important point for people to know that this is now in the future where I'm going to get care.
In 2024, more than 100,000 Nova Scotians were on the waiting list for a family doctor, 16% of the province's population. As of January 1st, the province says there are now 66,000 Nova Scotians waiting.
It's not where Nova Scotians want it to be. It's not where I want it to be, and I'm sure it's not where the government wants it to be.
She gives credit to the province for adding and expanding the scope of nurse practitioners.
I do think they've made significant advances in the primary health care, but, it's not enough, obviously.
Minister Thompson says their goal is to get the list down to 5% of the population, but with people constantly coming on and off the registry, says the number of Nova Scotians on the list will never reach 0. Vanessa Wright, CTV News, Halifax.
Meanwhile, in New Brunswick, the College of Physicians and Surgeons says a large number of doctors from Quebec are applying to practice in the province. Since October, there have been 126 applications from physicians in neighboring Quebec. 24 licenses have been issued. The reason, in part, is the ongoing labor dispute between doctors and the Quebec government. It's helped Vitalité Health Network surpass its recruitment goal. But MLA Bill Hogan still concerned about the Upper River Valley Hospital near Heartland, which is down to 1 surgeon.
They have posted a position for a second surgeon. I think they need to have a third surgeon. Anesthesiology is a big problem also. I mean, we're short anesthesiologists right across the board in the province.
Vitalité and Horizon are also on the hunt for space suitable for healthcare clinics. The health boards are reaching out to real estate and property owners.
Get the Maritimes top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Parting is such sweet sorrow for Halifax donut lovers. The Arctic blast didn't stop them from lining up at a donut shop for one last treat.
This is my family's favorite donuts, including my son here and my daughter and my wife. We love it here, so we had to do it.
There was a pretty substantial line outside Vandal's Donuts on Gottingen Street on Sunday. The business announced earlier in the week that it would be closing its remaining 2 locations in the metro area over the weekend. Vandals had been around in some form since 2017. Owners said it had become just too difficult to make a go. After this commercial break, more snow is expected tonight. Kalen returns with the full forecast. But next, plugging in. We'll get an update about the state of the power grid with more snow and cold headed our way. Well, today's snowstorm and blast of Arctic air the last few days have had the power utilities in the region on alert. This after last week's snow that knocked out power for many people, in some cases for days. Matt Drover is Senior Director of Energy Delivery at Nova Scotia Power. He is in Halifax, and it's nice to have you with us tonight, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
Let's start with what you're dealing with now. We know more snow is on the way for this evening, but that cold, that is still hanging in there. What are you preparing for?
Yeah, so every day we are watching the weather, and definitely over the next few days, we expect to have some more cold temperatures. Thankfully, nothing as extreme as we just experienced over the weekend, and we are going to get significant snow. But again, thankfully, it is not going to be that very moist snow. This is the more dry snow, which shouldn't build up on trees, and we shouldn't have significant outages with this one.
All right, that powdery stuff. You and your neighboring utilities had asked customers to conserve power, reduce usage. Did you see that happen?
Yeah, really, there's a lot of collaboration with all the Atlantic provinces over the weekend. Each province was asking their customers to conserve energy where they could, because with that extreme cold, those extremely cold temperatures really put a demand on all of the power grids this past weekend. Lots of energy usage from various residential customers, businesses, industrial facilities. Everybody was using a lot of electricity over the weekend, and that definitely contributed to high demand.
In that case, do you share power with the various utilities?
We do every single day, but definitely over this last weekend, it was much more collaborative. There were some instances where there was more wind in Nova Scotia, which meant that we had more generation on the grid, where we were actually giving energy to Newfoundland. Most days they're giving energy to us, but on Saturday we were able to give energy to them. And then vice versa on Sunday, when our wind was lower and we had more energy usage across Nova Scotia, Newfoundland was actually giving power to us. So it definitely goes both ways.
Lastly, let me ask you, customers have been requested to move from home heating oil to electricity, heat pumps and the like. Has that put more stress on the grid? Has it been able to keep up with the demand from those units?
It's something that the entire continent is really dealing with. Across North America, there is more usage of electricity than there ever was before. More heat pumps, more electric vehicles, chargers, all those things are putting more demand, which means that we are investing in more ways to improve the grid and allow for that growth to happen. Whether it's with batteries or new transmission lines to New Brunswick or more wind generation, we're definitely working to be able to have more capacity when those energy usages occur.
And the notice went out earlier that ask to conserve has basically been rescinded. You're back to normal.
That's right. We're back to normal now. Again, we watch that every day. And if the temperatures were to go much lower again, that would be a case where we put warning levels up. Yeah. But it's not often that happens. Normally, temperatures are around what they are today, -5, -10. And that's a normal day for us.
Okay. Matt Drover, Nova Scotia Power, thank you for the update. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll be back with weather right after this. So this is how things look right now in Halifax, Highway 102 near Dumbrack Street. It's -7 degrees. That is a lot less traffic than typically you would see at this hour. So Kalen Mitchell, people heeding the advice and staying put.
Yeah, I mean, the Halifax area at this point has seen the bulk of the snow that they're going to see with this weather system come down. Now, there is still expected to be some tonight. And in fact, even the very light snowfall rates around the Halifax area now for a period of time tonight, I do expect those to increase a little bit. Maybe picking up another 5 centimeters close to the city centers, 5 to 10 possible as you get out towards the airport. Okay. So there's still a little bit of this weather system left to make its way through.
This was the second Monday storm in a row for a lot of folks.
Can we make it 3 in a row? Possible.
Well,
We'll talk about that as soon as we get to the extended forecast.
I didn't want to ask, but
just saying.
I'm afraid to ask, maybe.
It's possible. There's a chance.
All right.
I want to talk a little bit about the nature of the snow. Probably something everybody noticed, especially in comparison to the snow that we saw at the beginning of last week. This was the light powdery stuff. And that means snow ratios were a little bit higher than 10 to 1. We talked about snow ratios with that weather system at the start of last week that produced that heavy, wet snow for us. Just on a note, while we're talking about snow ratios, that 60 centimeters that Toronto got, some of those snow ratios were in the range of around 20 to 1 up to around 30 to 1. So very light, powdery there. The powdery snow does tend to add up a little bit more depth-wise than the heavy wet stuff, but you also tend to run into less issues when it comes to like weight of the snow on tree branches and power lines, and it tends to be a little bit easier to move out of the way as well. So there's some pros and cons to it. Another con for the light powdery snow, by the way, though, is when you do have winds, it can blow into drifts a little bit easier. Taking a look at precipitation and winds for the rest of tonight, wind gusts will mostly be in the range of around 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. Those will be the wind gusts for tomorrow as well. The wind direction changes to become northwest. But you can see by around midnight, this is when the back edge that's currently in place through New England and parts of Quebec really starts to pull through the Maritimes. This is when some snowfall rates on average around the Maritimes could bump up a little bit. And then as we move into the overnight hours, it'll become light and then down to flurries through western areas of New Brunswick and the southwest of Nova Scotia. By the start of the day for tomorrow, say 7 a.m., down to flurries for the east of New Brunswick, snow diminishing to flurries for central areas of Nova Scotia, and then the last of the steadier snow around Prince Edward Island and eastern areas of Nova Scotia, including Cape Breton, and they should be down to some lighter snow or flurries by around noon. That does mean if we're looking at how the snow could be blowing around and reducing visibility, that your highest visibility conditions, your best visibility will be across much of the west of New Brunswick in the morning and the west of Nova Scotia, but maybe still low or reduced around parts of Prince Edward Island and the east of Nova Scotia, again, until what's left of that somewhat steadier snow moves off towards the northeast. Low temperatures in the forecast for tonight. For most of Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island be several degrees below the freezing mark. Much of New Brunswick tonight looking at low temperatures between -12 and -17. So it's cold, and it's cold for tomorrow. So the snow isn't going to be undergoing any sort of miraculous melt around the Maritimes. Highs tomorrow in the north of New Brunswick between -8 and -10. And a similar range of high temperatures expected through central and southern parts of that province. Prince Edward Island on Tuesday with high temperatures between -5 and -9. Again, snowy morning expected for PEI, and then should be down to some flurries for the afternoon. Same thing goes for eastern areas of Nova Scotia, -3 to -6 for Cape Breton, and between -2 and -6 for the eastern shore and north shore of the mainland. Cumberland, Colchester, Hants counties, Halifax County for tomorrow, high temperatures between -4 and -7, mostly -4 on the Atlantic coastline. The Annapolis Valley tomorrow with highs around -7, cold day for the valley, -5 at Digby, and then around the south shore of Nova Scotia, high temperatures between -4 and -6. In the extended forecast for New Brunswick, the colder air remains in place right into the end of this week. There's a chance of flurries on Friday, and then temperatures moderate a little bit in the weekend, becoming seasonably cold, and then a chance of flurries on Monday of next week. Now for Nova Scotia in the outlook, coming up through the end of this week, colder temperatures remain a little bit colder than average. It's a chance of flurries on Friday and Saturday. Sunday, mix of sun and cloud, and then on Monday, we've got snow possible there. There are indications in a lot of the long-range forecast models that there is going to be another nor'easter-type weather system developing around the eastern seaboard of the United States. But this far out, we don't have the certainty yet as to whether or not it's going to get close enough to impact us here in the Maritimes. But most of the guidance has it there. We'll just have to wait and see how close it is likely to get. So snow possible Monday of next week. Prince Edward Island in the forecast, colder temperatures will make our way through Wednesday and Thursday. Both days a mix of sun and cloud. There's a chance of flurries on Friday and Saturday. Sunday, a mix of sun and cloud, and then snow possible on Monday. Todd.
Just another manic Monday.
It could be. That's
all right.
Nicely put.
We'll see you later in the show. Next, who will be eligible for GST rebates announced today by Ottawa to help with food prices? We'll find out after this.
With Aaron and Peter. Packing for a trip. Are you totally last minute or prepared for weeks in advance? We're talking about it tomorrow at 7.
And it's time for you to get packing Password to Paradise. First password, 6 a.m. tomorrow.
Welcome back. After focusing on foreign affairs and trade, the Prime Minister today turned his attention to rising food prices. The response, a boost to GST credits. David McDonald is senior economist at the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. He is in Ottawa. We've seen this play out before. This was a play that the Trudeau government did. Obviously, the Liberals like to use this. Why do you think they turned to GST credits as opposed to some other way to help?
Well, the federal government has been using more of this cash transfer approach to moving money to people. It really started during the pandemic when we saw the benefits being directly deposited in people's bank accounts really quickly. And since then, we've seen it in a variety of different guises this time around. Again, we're seeing almost a doubling of the GST credit for the 2026 year. And that will certainly help folks. You know, it's not going to reduce grocery food prices, but it will certainly increase the amount of money in their pockets that will help them afford those higher cost groceries.
Yeah, so roughly, what, $800 in the first year and another $700 a year for a family of four. Correct me if those numbers don't shake down that way. The annual Dow Housing Food Report estimates Canadian families will spend about $1,000 more on groceries this year. So it doesn't quite match that. And it means a lot more money, about what, $3 billion on the books?
It'll cost $5 billion in 2026. Yeah, that's the maximum possible benefit you can get if you're in the particular circumstances they're citing in some of the press releases. The average benefit for most families will be in the $400 to $500 range. And folks making under about $65,000 in family income will be the major beneficiaries of this. Once you make more, it's just a lot less likely that you're even getting the GST credit, and so it's less likely you're going to benefit from it.
So that's about, what, 12 million Canadians that are going to see that rebate. Of course, that's just a portion of the population. Everybody's spending more for food. Would it perhaps make more sense to make food costs lower, to go at that end of it? Is that something that hasn't been tackled enough?
Yeah, I mean, food prices aren't going down. We're not going back to where we were in 2019. Food prices aren't going to drop by 25%, which is about what we've seen in terms of the increase since 2019. I think folks think that that might be something that is possible. It isn't really. And so the answer to higher food prices is higher incomes to pay for those higher food prices. Part of that can certainly be government transfers, like we're seeing here, boosting this GST credit, not just for this year, but for future years as well. The other part of it is higher wages, right? You get a raise from your boss, and therefore you can pay these higher food prices. It's not lost on workers that they're falling behind in terms of wage increases. And so, I mean, a better approach would be tight labor markets that drive up wages so folks can actually afford these higher food prices if they're working, and most Canadians are.
There's also, what, $500 million for food suppliers?
That's right. And so the idea here is that supply chain issues can increase the cost of food for the end consumer. That's certainly possible. And there may be some specific cases where that could be useful. It is worth pointing out that grocery store profit margins have roughly doubled since pre-pandemic times. That has nothing to do with supply chains, just has everything to do with how much of the money that's coming into grocery store chains is being kept as profits. One of the features of the big increases of prices generally in Canada, not just for food prices, but generally in Canada, is that an important part of that extra money that folks are spending on inflation, higher prices, is ending up as corporate profits. That's not a supply chain problem, that's a profit problem.
All right, economist David McDonald, we always appreciate your insight. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
We'll take a time out. We'll be back with more of your show. In health headlines tonight, a couple of recalls to tell you about. One involves a frozen food product and the other a household cleaning item. CTV's Amanda Debison has the details in the Lifeline.
The recall of Pizza Pops linked to possible E. coli contamination has expanded to include more products.
The Canadian Food Inspection Agency says several varieties are affected by the recall, including pepperoni, 3 cheese, deluxe, and 3 meat. Health officials say the contaminated food may not look or smell spoiled, but can still cause serious illness. General Mills says it is working with retailers to remove the products and urges people to check their freezers. Anyone with recalled items is being told to throw them out or return them for a refund.
Health Canada also announcing a recall of more than 43,000 units of the Angry Orange stain removers across the country due to a microbial hazard that could cause a risk of serious infection. While people with healthy immune systems are not usually affected by the bacteria, the notice says those with weakened immune systems or external medical devices could face serious infections that may require medical treatment. The recalled products were sold from March 2019 to December 2025. The company has not received any reports of incidents or illness in Canada or the U.S. Finally, people living with Alzheimer's in Canada are starting to get access to a new treatment.
When I do the V, it's because of victory.
And it's also because of 2 years of waiting.
Natalie from Quebec is among the first Canadians to be treated with a drug called lecanemab. It's designed to slow the progress of Alzheimer's. In cases of early diagnosis, the drug has been shown to slow cognitive decline by as much as 30%. As Natalie starts her treatment, she's hoping to take a big trip one day, maybe even see the birth of her grandchildren. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for the Lifeline.
Katie Kelly is off tonight, but we do have entertainment news. For half a century, Tony's Music Box was the place for New Brunswick musicians to get gear and advice. The store closed a few weeks back, but the community wasn't about to let it go without one final tune. CTV's Avery McRae was at the send-off.
2, 3, 4.
Every chord strummed on a guitar. For each beat hit on a drum. And every note sung from nearly a dozen talented Fredericton artists in front of a sold-out playhouse. It was all in tribute for the now shuttered downtown music shop that gave them their start.
Tony's, over 50 years, created a massive warmth and love in the community by just being exemplary in everything they did.
Which is why when Tony's Music Box announced it would be closing its doors after half a century this past fall, it hit the community hard. That's when Norm Couturier came up with the idea of a concert. One last crescendo for the soundbox of a community.
We had enough performers and speakers and people wanting to be part of this to do 2 nights. It just goes to show that when you go above and beyond naturally like they've done for so many years, it resonates with people.
One of those people is Steve Whalen, who like hundreds of others had his music career begin once he stepped through the doors of Tony's.
I got to see and touch and reach out to all those people all these years in music because of him and because of them.
It's a similar sentiment for Peter Hicks, who was 13 years old when he first walked into the Queen Street storefront.
You can't go in there any given day without running into musicians that you know or musicians that you respect and want to know. It's always been a community hub.
Musician after musician shared similar stories, and Tony's lasting impact was recognized by the city with the Fredericton Arts Achievement Award.
Fredericton is Fredericton because of the 5 decades that you have been on that corner, showing us off to the world, to every musician that comes in our town.
It's a night that won't soon be forgotten for Michael George, who along with his father and family provided the inspiration for the soundtrack of a city.
That's going to resonate within me forever. I love all you guys, and it's been my honor to serve you, assist you, and be part of your musical journey.
Be it a young kid looking for his first instrument, or the long-standing customer just stopping in to say hi. The story of Tony's shows with a little help from some friends, there's no telling what a community can create. Avery McRae, CTV News, Fredericton.
And congratulations to the Georges. It was a good long run. A weekend of extreme cold ushered in a series of winter festivals across New Brunswick, putting some warmth back into the month. Our Nick Moore has a rundown.
It has been appropriately a chilly start to the 2026 Frostival in Fredericton. But under the snow dome, there's a place to warm up.
It's a nice chance to get out of the house in the cold winter and just see some pretty warm faces.
The Shivering Songs music series began in 2010. It's become a flagship event under the Frostival banner and a reliable go-to for locals and visitors who are looking to liven up a frigid time of year.
When the temperature's this cold and people don't typically want to leave their house, they know that even if they come out to a Shivering Songs event and they don't know the artist, they're really going to have a good time.
There are a string of winter festivals starting soon across New Brunswick, including Campbellton, Moncton, Riverview, St. Andrews, Perth Andover, and the 2026 World Pond Hockey Championships in Plaster Rock. In the St. John area, Fundy Winterfest began last week, with winter events scheduled around the port city and surrounding communities between now and March. Shivering Songs wrapped up another year on Sunday. Frostival will continue into the first week of February with indoor and outdoor events around the capital region. Nick Moore, CTV News, Fredericton.
A full list of events is on our website. We'll be back. On the markets, the Dow opened a new trading week, up 313 points. BMO is replacing the Air Miles rewards program. BNN Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez with what comes next.
A new program called Blue Rewards will launch in the summer. If you have an Air Miles card, hang on to it. You can still use it, but the miles you collect will automatically convert to Blue points. Blue Rewards will use the Expedia platform for bookings. Today, Shell Canada announced it's ending its partnership with Air Miles and moving to Scene, which is owned by Scotiabank. Allied Gold is being bought by a Chinese firm in a deal valued at $5.5 billion. Zijin Gold is paying $44 cash per share for the gold miner. Allied has 3 assets, one in Cote d'Ivoire, one in Mali, and one in Ethiopia. The deal will require Ottawa's approval. Spot gold hit another record today, climbing above $5,000 an ounce. Investors have been rushing to pick it up with new tariff threats targeting Canada. The top movers on the TSX today were all precious metals. Here are the closing numbers for the day. West Texas Intermediate is down to 60.63. Western Canadian Select up $1.59 to 45.47, and the TSX lost 51 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Morella Fernandez.
All right, one more look at what's on the way. Here's Kalen.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. It's cold and it's snowy out here in the weather deck in the north end of Halifax. So I think most of the snow I'm catching at the moment is blowing off of our roof here at the CTV News studio. Let's take a look at our viewer picture for tonight. And hey, when it snows, you got to have some fun with it. And that's what's happening here. This is from Marlene Woodsworth, taken at Conquerall Mills, Nova Scotia. You can see some happy faces here on these sort of improvised snowmen. I thank Marlene very much for sharing that with us. Conquerall Mills for tomorrow should clear to a mix of sun and cloud with about a 30% chance of a flurry throughout the day. Cold, though, with a high temperature of around -5. So for tonight, we still have some snow that's going to be making its way across the Maritimes. The last of that somewhat steadier snow will still be in place around eastern parts of the region to start the day for tomorrow. So expect the snowiest conditions to start the day in Prince Edward Island, northern and eastern areas of Nova Scotia. The rest of the region should be down to flurries at that point in time. As for the afternoon hours, even that steadier snow around the east of the region to start the day for tomorrow should have cleared off towards the northeast. That means Prince Edward Island and Cape Breton will be down to some flurries. You can see temperatures, though, for tomorrow are expected to be quite cold. The afternoon high temperatures held several degrees below the freezing mark as the wind becomes northwest, and tomorrow's wind will be sustained near 20 kilometers per hour with occasional gusts between 30 and 50 for the region. So that could still create some areas of some drifting and blowing snow around some exposed parts of the roads, like where they run against fields, for example. So just keep that in mind for Tuesday's conditions. Let's find out what's coming up on your Morning Atlantic.
Tuesday on your Morning Atlantic, caring for those chompers.
February is Pet Dental Health Month, and on this week's Pet Talk, we'll get some advice on keeping those pearly whites in tip-top shape.
Start your morning with us Tuesday on your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
Finally, we received some sad news here today. Our longtime colleague and friend Greg Campbell passed away. He was a student when he started at then CJCH-TV in Halifax 55 years ago. He returned to ATV News in 1975. Over the next 36 years, he was a cameraman, a lighting director, and then technical supervisor, meaning he was basically in charge of everything that had a button or a switch in this place, a role that demanded technical wizardry and a lot of patience. Greg had both and was the kind of good-natured colleague as you could ever hope for. He showed up with a smile every day. It grew a little bigger when he retired in 2011. Greg Campbell was 76 years old, and he will be most missed around this place. That'll do it for tonight. Bruce Frisco's here at 11:30. I'm Todd Battis. Good night.
CTV News, the Maritimes' #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.